Tony, this is clearly a very personal show. Tell us why you decided to write it.
Well, I did an MA in script writing during the pandemic, and the final task was to write a play. And I spent most of the 2 years, it was part-time, acting in other people's plays. And so the tutor knew that I was an actor, so he said, write something for yourself so that you can perform it yourself. And initially I did try to write something for myself, but it ended up being a three-hander. So this was originally for 3 people. And what happened is that Bath Spa University, someone else I know, said, would you like to do a scratch night here, for the festival? We can only pay you £100. And I thought, I can't pay 2 other actors out of £100, so I'm going to have to do it myself. So I then went there and read it. I did a performed reading of it, and at the end the question was, could it work as a one person? And they said yes. The thing is, I didn't think it would, because I'd seen Andrew Scott's one person Vanya, and most of it is monologues. It's brilliant, but it's mostly monologues, and this is a lot of dialogue. So I thought it'd be hard to do, but it would seem to work with them. So that was the genesis of it, really. Yeah. And then over the next 6 months, really, I've worked on it with the director, Caroline Faber. And
wait, give us a shout, Caroline.
Yeah. And I did a scratch night in Stanley Arts about 2 months ago, and they all said from the dame onwards it sort of collapses, and they said that the dame doesn't go far enough, and you don't have a kind of redemption scene with the father, and it sort of disappears. And it did, really. I was trying to do a Hamlet ghost moment when I was playing the dame, where I saw the ghost of my father, and I put lots of Shakespeare Hamlet ghost stuff in, and it didn't really work. So an American playwright friend said, I'm American, we need things spelt out a bit more. So I think you should bring in All the World's a Stage in each stage. Yeah. So I never had that before, so I put in those sections, and he said you need to make the 6th age be your 6th age, not just your dad's. So hence the final scene where we kind of both got enlarged prostates, which kind of brings us both into the 6th age. And then, having got those little bookended sections, I then looked at my DVDs that I had from my father's cine shows, and they were, and I digitalised them, and there's 4 hours material, and then I moved all those little clips to go with each age. That's it, really. That's how it's come to be.
Well, that was more than I was expecting as an answer. Thank you. But it was very good. But I think the advice that you got about framing, using 7 Ages of Man as a framing device, was really great advice. It works well. And the home movies are wonderful, really touching, really touching. Yeah. Just before I go to Joe, as I mentioned, it's such a personal piece. Was it difficult for you to delve into all of this?
I think, so I had, when my mum died in 2006, I think it's on there, I did a week's writing course for Arvon, and it was that thing where you're supposed to go in your room and write, but I didn't do it for 3 days. I thought, I'm going to have to do something. And because I don't know what I was doing for those 3 other days. So I just started writing, and I wrote essentially about not getting to my mum before she died, and about her visiting me as a ghost and talking to me about Dad. And so I wrote that, and that was the beginning. And then when I came to write it, it sort of wrote itself very quickly. And then, to be honest with you, I have to be honest, it's only really, it's not difficult to do. It's difficult technically as an actor, but it's not emotionally difficult, except tonight, because I knew practically the whole audience. And that's a bit harder. And I hadn't done it for 3 days. And I hadn't listened to the music or seen the clips before. So today it was a little bit more emotionally wrought than it normally is, which may be a good thing, but it did actually mean I cried at one moment. But let's
none of us noticed.
Let's leave
right?
that.
We didn't notice.
Let's leave that be. Anyway, there you are. That's the answer to that one.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Joe, let's hear from you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I thought it and you were magnificent. It really was extraordinary. Both so personal and universal at the same time. I loved it, and it meant a lot to me. And in some ways that leads to my question, which was, how do you feel after that? After you've given a performance in which you almost conjured the spirits of your ancestors.
I feel purged.
Right.
No, I do. I do. I mean, the irony, let's be totally blunt. My therapist came to the scratch nights, and he's not going to come again. And I said, you know it all. We've been through it for 2 years, and his partner really enjoyed it. But I suppose I do feel purged at the end. I feel actually great. Now, I've always felt good at the end of acting. It's really weird because I left acting for 10 years until now. And I was teaching, and I never really felt purged being a teacher. But after I've performed, I do. When I'm doing it, I do feel emotional while I'm doing it. But my head's going, keep going. Do you see what I mean? It's like my acting head's going, you've got the next bit to do, you've got the next bit to do, you've got the next bit to do. But my sort of inside person might get a bit choked up at bits. And so what I'm doing all the time is balancing being too choked up and being just about choked up enough that I can keep going. But when I finish it, I feel brilliant.
So, as you mentioned at the start, we met when you were in Propeller, and I think I saw most of your performances in Propeller. Yeah. An amazing ensemble company, as your friends will know, an all-male ensemble, Shakespeare ensemble.
Yeah.
Had you done many solo pieces before?
No.
Okay, so what was that like? As an actor,
well, I suppose when I was at Sheffield, when I was about 22, I did join a sort of spoken word, Sheffield. I don't know if you know Sheffield. It's quite hippy, and they had a little library spoken word group, and I joined that, and I did a bit of spoken word, 3-minute pieces. So it actually reminds me, especially the early stuff with the boy when it's so quick. Mm-hmm. That reminds me of those pieces. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing I had done. Yeah.
But is it scary being on the stage
on your own? I don't know. It is scary. That's I have to be totally frank. I've only done 6 shows of it, and I tried, and I've never done that. And the director will know that I've never done that before. But I had a moment where I didn't know what the next bit was, and I just stood there. I mean, you may have noticed, and that was scary. But that never normally happens. So I suppose in those instances, I'm thinking, I'm the only person that can know what's next. Obviously, I deliberately try at the beginning. and on Saturday, 2 people went, "Don't worry, keep going." Which was amazing. In fact, one of the people that said keep going was a really brilliant actor that I've worked with about 3 times. And I said, someone in the audience said keep going. He said, "It was me, Tony. It was me." I went, "Why?" "Because remember, when you went and did that stand-up open mic spot and you forgot everything and you walked off the stage." And I thought, "Come on, Tony, don't do it again." and that's quite funny, isn't it? So I suppose I have tried to do stuff on my own.
Right.
This is probably one where I won't cock it up.
Okay. Whilst you mentioned Caroline Faber, tell us about how you work together too, because often with one-person shows, they can be quite static, and this is incredibly dynamic, and lots of costume changes. Was that your idea?
I think it's a combination. So the Scratch Night had very different opinions. They were all actors, and they all had very strong opinions. Mm-hmm. And Chris Gascoigne, that was on Coronation Street for 40 years or so, went, "It's a bit Burkoffian. You should sit in a chair, in a pew, in the church, and just do the whole thing like that." And so Carol and I had a bit of a panic. We went, "Are we being a bit too Burkoffian?" and so what we've tried to do over the rehearsal process is put the movement in that we need, but not let that supersede the relationship with the audience and the fact that the man is kind of remembering everything. Mm. So the trick is to keep it interesting, I think. And also we had no costume changes in the Scratch Night, but we went for these basic ones. I mean, we had drumsticks and went, "They're a bit naff, but let's keep the ball." So we've sort of gone for, and we found that upstairs, the Dame costume upstairs. So, if I do it anywhere else, I'll have to borrow that. But basically we're just trying to strike a balance between theatricality and audience relationship and kind of simplicity.
Yes, beautiful. Okay, hand in the back. Yep.
Yeah, why is it called Man in the Rain?
Thank
Tony?
you. I had that on my list too. Why is it called Man
Well,
in
it
the Rain?
started off called Stage Fright, because the first idea I had was that he would just that it was about. So the first idea was it was about an aging actor that hadn't been on the stage for a while and didn't know how to do it anymore. And because his mother and father had died, he didn't know why he was doing it. So there's a lot of that in it. Like, why am I doing it once they've died? Because I did it so that they would like me. So the thing is that it was called Stage Fright, but it's not really stage fright that I have. I just dry on the stage. So I changed it to Toad in the Hole, Wonder Boy, but then that's a show at Bristol. And then I thought Hawk in the Rain by Ted Hughes. It's a seminal poetry book from the 60s. Look, I'm ambivalent about Ted Hughes because I really loved him as a schoolboy, but I've read all the stuff about him and Sylvia Plath and him being quite abusive. So obviously, but it really, Man in the Rain comes from Hawk in the Rain. But now I've discovered Mike Oldfield wrote a song called Man in the Rain, and it's very cheesy. So
Very good. Yes, there was another hand there, and then we'll come there next. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, hi, well done. It's amazing. It's a lovely show, and I just wondered. You say at some point, you never resolve things, you and your dad.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a therapy question, this, but I just wondered if you feel that partly you have done by doing the show. You have kind of resolved issues, that you had with your mum and dad. Is this theatre working its magic to a certain extent in some ways?
That is a beautiful question.
yeah, I mean, so I am sort of so I run a sort of I really enjoy doing the show, so I would like to do it more, but I'm also aware that it may upset family members, and a lot of them are coming on the last night, so I'll find out. But so I think the thing that I'm aware of is I'm trying. So it's really tricky when you make drama out of real life. You have to sort of play the drama to make it work. So I've deliberately chosen sort of the dramatic me punching dad, dad hitting mum, and the revelation of dad's brother killing himself as the three sort of major reversals in the play. And I know that all three of those are controversial, not for people that don't know my family, but for people that know my family, it's shocking. So one person's come that knew mum and dad, and they were shocked, actually. So what's my point? When I try to act them, I try to get inside them. I'm trying to get inside mum and dad as much as me, and I'm trying to make all three of us human. Mm-hmm. And it upsets me when I can feel the audience don't like my dad when I'm playing it, because that happened last week, and then one of my friend's mums was very upset with my dad and very angry with him, and that upset me as well. So the thing in terms of therapy, I suppose it is therapeutic to play your own mum and dad and try to understand them and get inside them and do a Stanislavski on them, but at the same time I'm nervous about doing it. I love doing it, but I'm nervous about the reaction. Not from the audience that don't know me, because I think it's universal. I think they really attach. One boy last week kind of was going, it didn't happen like that, because he suddenly thought it was his own dad, which is great. And then when I did it in Bath, the older people said it reminds me not to be too tough on my son doing GCSEs. And the students were going, it reminds me not to be too shitty with my mum and dad. So that's really good. But when people know me, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. So it's therapeutic to do, and I think it's a really good exercise to try to make all three of them human, both as an actor and as a person. But I would say that I want it to exist as a play. The therapy came in therapy. And I did it, and then out of therapy, I then, I wrote this play because it was the thing that came out. But I want it to be a play. I don't want it to be therapy.
Well, as characters in a play, I felt by the end that I'd come to love each of you, all
That's
three
good.
of you. And I suppose do you feel that through the therapy and the writing that you understand your parents now better than you did?
I think the process started with the process started with that little week in Arvin when my mum had just died and I'd missed saying goodbye, and that's the script that I wrote, which is basically a scene where my mum's ghost comes back to a funeral and talks to me about Dad and why they were married, and that came out of that just immediately after Mum's death, and then I went to therapy because I couldn't sort of I wasn't happy with acting and all sorts, and then the therapy got it out of me, and then it was all there on my fingertips. So the actual writing of it was surprisingly unexhausting.
Okay, I think we are running out of time, so we'll take these last two questions here.
Hi, Donny. I was so interested, it kind of follows on from the previous question to a degree, or the talk of sort of the therapy, but I guess we'd understand theatre as art. I kind of wonder, watching you back from sort of like the beginnings and you as a child wanting to do it, do you think your desire to get up on stage and perform or even just be heard, is that driven by a desire to say something like as an artist, or do you think that's driven as a desire to self-therapise, but then obviously then begets the art, or like, do you know what I mean? Does one beget the other?
Well, I mean,
There's a lot of begetting going on.
Yeah.
When I left home and went to university, I didn't. So it's quite a strong. Most of the family are academics, and it's that world. And I kind of wanted to escape, so I was escaping that world. And I started doing geography, and I switched to theatre studies while I was at Lancaster Uni, and that was the beginning. And actually, what happened is that I wanted to make. That's Jean-Paul Sartre thrown onto the earth. The existential idea that we are ourselves, or we're trying to become ourselves. Obviously, I've really paraphrased that. I don't think it's that at all. but essentially, I wanted to escape the very sort of strong influences of my family, and become something else. And acting was the way of doing that. And so at first, it was a way of discovering me, not as Mum and Dad's son. And then once I was doing it, I really enjoyed doing it. And then when my mum and dad died, Mum first, I lost a bit of, and then it coincided with Propeller finishing, I lost a bit of the joie de vivre about it. So I went back to teaching because my mum was a teacher. I thought I must be a teacher. I must do a proper job, or a job that's worthy of value. I went back to that, and actually that killed me as well. So I've now come back to acting. So now, hopefully, I'm doing it for me. But I think until that point, I was probably doing it to escape my roots.
And here.
Hi, I'm Lisa from Russian
Yeah,
School
I know.
on Facebook. And when I was watching it, I was thinking, because before I was thinking, oh, you're going to take it to Edinburgh. And then, so when I was watching it, I was thinking, 70 minutes, he's got to cut 10 minutes. And then, but what you just said about what the family are going to think about it, I think maybe you need to put a bit more in, because it's so, you say things in it like, I've never felt comfortable with my dad, and that's what's hard. That's what hard for people who know the whole story, will be, because you say things like that make it, it's all about his violence, or
Is there a question?
How he makes you feel. I think you might need to put some more in it. That's my question. Well, what would you put in? If you put more in, what would you put in?
Well, I think you can, I've never felt comfortable at home. It could be many things. It could be, it doesn't have to be violence. It could be all kinds of things. And actually that, I probably think they wouldn't mind that, because I would have said that to them all through my life. So those things aren't a revelation. The things that I'm worried about are the things that are family secrets, like the suicide. That's what I worry about. But the actual, my response to my dad, that's a 21-year-old boy responding to his own father, is quite normal. And actually they know that, that they wouldn't find that shocking. So, and also I wouldn't put more in it just to satisfy, or I think you need to be more balanced. I would only put more or less in it to do with how good it was as a play.
Okay, I'm going to finish with very quick fire questions, so short answers, right? Who is the Oedipus actor who went on to become a film star?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
Because that's the thing, I want it to exist, you know. You can decide what's true or false.
Okay. And what would Alan and Dorothy say if they saw the play?
No idea. No idea. I mean, my friend Sean Murray, the one that said, "Come on, Tony, you can do it." He said, "Oh, they'd be very proud of you."
I think they would.
But
and finally, what next for you as a writer, as a performer?
I don't know. I wanted to take this on a UK tour, but now Lisa's put me off. So I want to take it on a UK tour, but I'm not sure. And then if not, I'm going to write another play, maybe with one other person in it.
Yeah.
It's more expensive, but it's also more sharing. So I might do a two-hander. And if I do write another play, it'll be about somebody else, not me.
Will you be performing it?
Yeah, I think I want to. Yeah, I want to perform again.
Have you got the bug again, the acting bug?
Yeah, I mean, I've written another play on the MA course, but actually it doesn't really fit me. It's for two people that aren't really my age.
Some of those other actors are very cheap.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe I'd direct, but actually, I'll be honest with you, I've been directing students and I actually prefer acting.
Good. Well, I think you should keep acting and keep inviting me to do Q&As for your show. Anything else that you want us to take away from tonight? We obviously are going to spread the word, right, audience?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 more formal shows, haven't I? I mean, I want to. I've had some good audiences, 30 odd, but I could get 50, and I'd like to fill the theatre. I mean, for 2 reasons. I like playing to big houses, and it'll mean that we break even, and it means that everyone will get paid properly, and also that I'll possibly have enough money to put another one on.
Yes. Oh, actually, one other quick question. How many Shakespeare references are there in the play? Obviously, there are 7.
I don't know. There's Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night, Richard III, which is No Creature Loves Me, and If I Die, No Soul Shall Pity Me. There's, I think that's it. Pardon? Winter's Tale. What's the Winter's Tale one?
As You Like It.
There's As You Like It, obviously, although it's a stage. What's the Winter's Tale one? I don't think there is a Winter's Tale one, but I'll have to go back through.
The director probably knows. Anyway,
we took it out.
Audience, thank you guys for staying. Thank you for your brilliant questions. But honestly, I've had loads of them.